Are you one of those people running around the country screaming about your constitutional rights? Do you even know what your constitutional rights are? Well, we're here to give them to you right here, right now, on this episode of The Bizz. All right, welcome to The Bizz, where we're all up in it. Your boy Daniel's up here in Simi Valley.
Aaron down in hot SD.
It's hot everywhere. I'm Chris. I'm in Ventura County.
Yeah.
Ventura County represented up in here tonight. And it is hot. It's really hot everywhere.
Man.
Right? Another
Absolutely.
hot thing that's going on in the country lately is we have a lot of people talking about their constitutional rights. We have this mask issue that's going on that's kind of brought this whole thing to my attention, where people are walking into mainly private businesses, right? They walk into these businesses, and when they're asked to wear masks, one of their first responses is, "It is my constitutional right. You are violating my constitutional rights by asking me to wear a mask in your private business," right? And a lot of those people are not walking around with little constitutions in their pocket. So we decided we were gonna lay out the Constitution in English so we can kind of figure out, are we violating these people's constitutional rights by asking them to wear masks when they come into
No.
practice?
Short answer, no.
Short answer, no, right?
I like the way he
All right,
operates.
let's get straight. All right, that's it. Thanks. Welcome to
Great
the
show.
Good night. Thanks for having me.
Right,
Always a pleasure.
right. So, and it actually is a pleasure to have you on here tonight because Chris is one of my colleagues, and he's a specialist in history, a history teacher, which, so I'm glad. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight.
Been wanting to do it for a while. You guys have a great thing going on here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. So amendment number 1, First Amendment, right? Guarantees freedom of speech, religion, and press, and the right to assemble peacefully and petition the government for the redress of grievances, which means to ask it to fix something that it's responsible for. Who wants to get on the First Amendment?
I'll jump on it, and then I'll refer to our expert, our resident in-house expert.
Oh, great.
Everybody loves to, no pressure. Everybody loves to throw around, that's my right, to free right, I can say whatever I want. I can say this. You can't yell fire in a movie theater. You can't threaten someone's life. So there are limits to our Constitution. It's almost so easy that it's difficult. One of my issues with like this, or the Constitution in general, is the written so easy, but it didn't take into account 330 million personalities. I wish people would just be kind.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think here's the thing on the Constitution. When you look like the amendment you just read, the First Amendment, people talk a lot about their constitutional rights, but when you look at how brief the Constitution is, it's written very vague.
Yes.
There 8 of those Bill of Rights there's only 8 of them that have to do with our rights. Each one of those is only 1 sentence long. So really you're talking about 8 sentences that define our rights. So in no way is what is actually written in the Constitution a summation of all of your rights. It's a starting point. It's a jumping off point. And every one of those rights, like Aaron started to say there, it has limits. There are always limits to any right you have. It doesn't sound like it in the Constitution, like what you just read there in the First Amendment. It said Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Right? No law. It sounds absolute.
Right. It does.
It absolutely is not, because in practice you can't say anything you want anytime, anywhere.
Absolutely.
Like you said, Aaron, just run into a crowded movie theater and yell fire and find that out, right? So there has to be limits. There has to be limits on all of our freedoms.
I tend to feel that people walk around feeling too free. I can do whatever I want. There's no structure. As long as I read the vague 8 sentences that you spoke of, or I read the Constitution, which is, it's a good outline it's a good start. But, the country has definitely gotten more complicated since its inception, that's for sure. I wish people, I don't know, I wish it was some law you had to just reread it every year at least. Like, let's review it, just so
Right.
I know where I stand. Because there's a saying that I like to say all the time, and like, it's the arrogance of Americans. Americans are very arrogant with this Constitution, and a lot of people, for them, it's written in pencil. You know what I mean? As if I can just adjust it to when I need it.
To fit my argument right
To
now.
fit my argument, I'm gonna, and it's. I just wish that people were more patriotic in that way, in terms of, let me reread this thing that defines our country at least once a month or once a year or whatever.
What I would love to see is when someone goes into one of these private businesses and they start spouting, hey, it's my constitutional right or whatever. I would love for someone to actually say, well, pull it out. Which amendment to the Constitution are you actually discussing? Like, which
Where does it say
one
that?
are we violating?
In terms of
I
them not wearing
they
their
won't know.
in terms of them not wearing their mask, they're probably, if they really are referring to an actual amendment, it's probably either the 5th or the 14th, where it says that your life, liberty, and property can't be, due process. Everybody has their due process rights. But in the case of wearing your mask, we're in a state of a national health crisis right now.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, you guys remember back in the LA riots, right? Where the Third Amendment. I don't know if you're going to talk about the Third Amendment tonight, but that just says that troops don't have to be required to allow troops in your homes. Right. Well, if you got a riot going on in your town and martial law's been declared and the National Guard stepped in, then they're coming in your house.
Right, because it does say during peacetime, right?
It says during peacetime, you're right. And they have to do that because there's a crisis happening. And right now we got a crisis happening in the country. So that's the governor has the right to say that. Store owners certainly have, it's their business. They can make you wear purple if they want.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I totally lost my train of thought. That's so bad. But yeah, I think it's the interpretation too, right?
Oh,
everyone has their own interpretation of that First Amendment that I just read, or of any of these amendments, right? I might say, I have freedom of speech, religion, and press, but is it my interpretation? Because it's so vague. Like, what can I do with my religion? Do I have the right to worship anywhere I want? And is a church a private business, right? Are churches private businesses?
I think.
Well, they are tax exempt.
And if they are private businesses and I want to worship there, but they say I can't for whatever reason.
They're tax exempt, but you can trespass. Like, it's private property. I'm not sure where they fall in that category.
So
then it gets real cloudy in there. I'm sorry.
When you're talking about these limitations, or when you're talking about interpretations, rather, of what our rights mean in, say, the First Amendment, all of these interpretations that's the job of the Supreme Court, right? So if you think of the Constitution as sort of a skinny little skeleton, and then it's the courts that kind of pack on the meat around that skeleton by defining what did those guys really mean by right to freedom of speech. Does that mean you can threaten somebody, right? It's, and the courts have decided they use terms like clear and present danger. If you're threatening somebody and there is a clear and present danger that you actually mean business, then you are not covered under the First Amendment. You are not protected by the First Amendment. That is an illegal form of speech. If there is no clear and present danger, and you're just blowing off steam, right? I can't stand the Broncos. What are you gonna do? But or whatever. And you're threatening someone, but there's no real threat there. Then you are protected by the First Amendment.
Right.
So it's the courts that decide on. They interpret the words of the framers of the Constitution.
All right.
Gotcha.
All right.
Do you think there should be an updated version? Because I like that analogy of the skeleton, right? So if we say that this is our framework, should we, when I read the First Amendment, it's like you said, it's 2 lines, and that's pretty much it. I'd like to see, or I don't know if this already exists, the paragraphs that it probably should be in 2020 for just the First Amendment. I'd like to see that detail, because what you said is very true, but nobody walks around with all of that specific knowledge. They go, I can say whatever I want.
You would need volumes and volumes of constitutional law, right?
Yeah,
Because what are we
exactly.
talking about? Are we talking about the right to wear a mask, or say, there's so many issues.
Mhm.
And when you get
Right.
to like the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, how many issues on there and what can be searched and when. And so that's why the court, that's the job of the Supreme Court, is to define the Constitution all the time.
Right. All right, so let's move on to the Second Amendment.
Oh, this is a good one.
Amendment
Oh,
2.
man.
All right,
You're bringing
first I'm
us
going
there,
to
huh?
read the non-English verbiage here. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. All right. Now in English, the belief was strong that a well-regulated militia, such as the National Guard in modern times, was necessary for maintaining our national security. So the political leaders in Congress guaranteed that the right to bear arms would not be infringed or violated, right? And in the context of the Constitution, I'm reading this, right? And I'm not coming off my head here. In the context of the Constitution, phrases like shall not be infringed or shall make no law and shall not be violated sound pretty unbendable, but the Supreme Court has ruled that some laws can in fact encroach on these phrases. For example, though there is a freedom of speech, you cannot slander someone. Though you can own a pistol, you cannot own a nuclear weapon. So there's all of this gray, area, this blurry leeway.
The Second Amendment's been a talking point since it was written on paper. Like we just had on Friday in California, they just overturned the 10 round rule. So you can now have a mag that's over 10 rounds because the Supreme Court deemed that it was infringing on that Second Amendment by limiting you to 10 rounds in a mag. So now it can be 30 rounds or 20 rounds.
So you can walk around with if you have a CCW, you could be walking around with your handgun and mags in every pocket.
Well, see, therein lies the problem. When the framers wrote that amendment in 1789, a weapon meant, some old school Brown Bess smooth bore musket that couldn't hit the side of a barn if it wanted to. They never in their wildest dreams could have anticipated a country where people are stockpiling fully automatic assault weapons and C4 in their garage, and they plan on going out and popping a bunch of people. So so you got to ask yourself, if the framers were around today, what would they have to say about that?
Yeah, would they say this isn't what we meant, or would they say, oh, no, that's exactly what we meant? What do you think?
Well, there's, like you said earlier, there are limitations. Sure, I like to go to the shooting range, shoot a pistol. I don't shoot rocket launchers. Look at this one. We just don't. There's got to be a limit. You don't need a rocket launcher, although somebody might argue differently.
So
to protect for home protection.
And either one of you can answer this because I really don't know. Under the Second Amendment, can I own an AR-15?
Yes.
So here's the thing on the Second Amendment. You read the whole thing. It's one sentence. And if you pay close attention to the words, what was the purpose of the Second Amendment? Look at the first, how it starts. It's the only it's the only amendment that has to explain itself and its purpose.
So I read the
a well-regulated militia.
Then I read the English one.
What is it? Regulated militia.
Yes.
Being necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The original intent was that Americans did not trust having a standing army at that time. We didn't have a standing army. Standing armies were ways for leaders back in Europe to maintain their authority, their power over the people. So Americans were very distrustful of having a standing army ready to go at any time. And so people depended on their local militias. It was your responsibility as a man to own a gun and to be trained. And notice it says a well-regulated militia. Today, our version of that is the National Guard, like you said, Daniel, right? It's the National Guard. And so today we have police, we have National Guard. The original intent of the Second Amendment was so that we could have a National Guard or local protection. It doesn't really say, and I'm not saying that Americans shouldn't have the right to a gun. I'm not going that way at all. But it doesn't say that. It doesn't pertain to individuals. It pertains to the right of a state to have a militia. for its own
Gotcha.
protection.
So this goes back to the vagueness and it'd be great to get a time machine and go back and go, so what does this really mean? And then
Or
come
tell
back.
them what the world's going to be like, and
Yeah.
they might reconsider some things.
Right.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
it's very true. I think it will always be an issue. All the amendments will always be an issue because you said it earlier, Chris, is everything is one line.
Yeah.
You know, it's oh my God, it's no shoes, no shirt, no service. What about thongs? You know, there's just there's so
Right.
much room for
Yeah.
interpretation. You
Do
know,
thongs and flip flops count as shoes? You have something
do in
under
my
your
house.
foot, right? I don't know.
You know, so it will always be debated. You have gun enthusiasts. I mean, do I need 50 guns just for me? No. It's like having 200 pairs of shoes. You only got 2 feet. You only got a pair of feet.
So based on
My wife is not listening to this right now.
what happened?
I'm married to Imelda Marcos, I think.
Oh, she's got a shoe collection. Oh,
She's got
no.
some shoes. She's got some. So does my daughter.
Oh, my
She's bringing her
God.
up that way.
So based on how the Second Amendment is written, should there, I mean, because again, we're talking about limits. Should there be a limit on maybe the type of weapon or how many weapons you can
And
own?
clip size and all that. Absolutely.
Well,
You know, it's always a. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
No. You're. Go ahead. I'll piggyback on what you said.
It's always a balancing act. Like and you were saying this before, Aaron. Like the more freedoms you give people, right, the more chaotic society is going to be.
Exactly.
Right, and the more you limit those freedoms, the more restraint, an orderly society will be, and so what would you rather have, a more free society or a more safe society? And other countries opt for the latter, but I would personally rather live in a country that's got a lot of freedoms, and so things get messy.
This is true.
But do we have too many freedoms because we have a constitution? Although, and I admit, I mean, if a lot of the Constitution if the majority of the Constitution wasn't being followed to some extent, we'd have anarchy in the country, right? So I'm not saying that it's not a good document, but it's very vague, and it opens itself up to a lot of misinterpretation. So it can seem flimsy.
Well, it's good that it's vague, though, because here we are 230 years later still living under its same words. If it was too specific, we wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah,
we have the oldest constitution on earth.
Right.
It's true, because if it said you cannot have a musket, people would go, well, I don't have a musket.
That's right. I got
rocket
an AR.
launcher.
Right.
It's
true.
It's what he said was actually, what Chris said was 1,000% right. You can choose to be free or, sort of more restrained or something to that effect. And there's baggage on both sides of that coin. And I think most Americans are going to choose the free because, one, you're used to having it. And to have it, sort of pulled back would you piss some people off.
Right.
That's for
Right.
sure.
So
it's always that balancing act.
So the word, my immediate response to all of that is there are 27 amendments, and an amendment is something that is used to fix something else. So why can't we amend the amendments?
We've done that once.
You've done it once, but you just have, and this is the beauty. This is why I like the Constitution. Yeah, it's oh god, it's
prohibition.
It was yes,
when they made alcohol illegal.
True.
Jesus. Thank you, America, for coming together for the booze.
Yes, thank you. What is the 21st Amendment? Is that the one that repeals the 18th?
I think so. Yes, that's what it says. So the Constitution is still vague, but it's very much written in pencil. You just have to get enough Americans to say, I want to change that, or I want to add that. And again, it's hard to get that many people like-minded to make it happen.
Right.
You guys want to talk about changing the Constitution? I'd love to come back someday before the election and talk about our electoral college.
Yes,
that's something in desperate need of change.
Let's make that happen then.
Let's do it.
So we're winding up. So let's touch on, Chris touched on the Third Amendment already. So let's talk about that, and you can make the point you wanted to make, and then we'll wrap up for the night. Third Amendment, no soldier in time of peace shall be quartered in a private citizen's home without the homeowner's consent. So in times of peace, no, that's not going to happen. You know, G.I. Joe's not going to come knock on my door and I'm not going to let him in. But if there's a crisis, right, if there's a war, if there's something going on, then the Third Amendment doesn't apply. Is that how that's how I'm reading it?
That's what it is, yeah. You know, this was just a reaction to something the British had been doing to us that we didn't want to see in this country. It was something called the Quartering Act,
Right.
where British troops could go knock on doors and you had to come and let them in your home, supply them with all sorts of things. You didn't have a choice. And these were 18-year-old soldiers on the other side of the world. And there were instances of physical and sexual abuse going on and stuff. And you had no choice but to let armed men in your home. And so we wanted to respect private property and make sure that didn't happen in this country. And that was the purpose of the Third Amendment.
I didn't know that, so right now I like that. I love how nobody in the history of America has ever referenced the Third Amendment. You know, but I have a Marine living next door to me, so I'm like, you know, I'm in a military town, but like, I like that. That's a smart move. It's very common sense. It's probably one of the most American amendments there is. You know,
We hardly ever have to use it.
Ever. I have my Third Amendment. Nobody's ever said that.
Right.
You know, but
Standing on your front porch.
exactly. Right. You know, but
all right. So listen, we're getting down to the witching hour right here. Chris,
Yeah.
we're going to attack amendments. You know, we're going to pick up at amendment number 4 soon. Oh, here's that Packers G.
Go Pack. Go Pack.
So we want you to come back when we continue on with the amendments.
I'd love to.
Awesome. That's great. All
and
right.
we're seeing you at the election. Oh, we're making that happen.
Yeah, we're going to do that too. So you've been booked for returns already. Let me put that in my right. All right.
You guys are fun.
For all of you out there, if you guys like what you're hearing and you want us to keep giving to you, make sure you hit the like button down there. Subscribe, please subscribe. Give us that thumbs up so we can keep bringing you the biz. All right. Any last words, fellas?
Absolutely. If you have ever referenced the Third Amendment in your life, put it in the comments. Put it in the comments.
I'm going to comment.
Right. All right.
Get off my property.
Right, for sure. Get out of here. All right. Until next time, Daniels D Money signing out from Simi Valley.
Aaron, still in hot SD. We'll see you next time.
This is Chris. Bye. Peace.
All right. And we're out.
Bizz.